corporate media covers this kind of stuff up. We need a lot more independent media to show you amazing examples like this of what they actually think about their own product.
I disagree with you entirely.
The title, Corporate Greed Exposed, is not an exaggeration. This clip is a raw look into the twisted mindset of a major food executive who openly mocks the very Americans his company feeds. The key figures here are Martin Bailey, Campbell's vice president, whose jaw-dropping comments accidentally revealed the truth behind what corporates or corporations think of you. Jake and Anna, hosts reacting to the leaked audio and breaking down how deep this rot really goes. And Robert Garza, the whistleblower who recorded the tirade that corporate America desperately wishes never saw daylight. This isn't a debate. This is a public execution of corporate hypocrisy. And yes, Jake absolutely steamrolls every counter-argument here. He's not just winning, he's nuking the entire playbook of corporate responsibility. So let's find out the real truth.
Yeah, for poor people. Who buys our I don't buy these products barely anymore. So healthy. Now that I know what the is. Even in a soup, I look at it, look at these bioengineered meat. I don't want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer. You?
The moment Bailey starts mocking the very product his company sells, millions and millions of Americans that rely on his food, you know it is a misunderstanding. This is corporate elitism on full display. The man literally says he won't eat the same garbage his company sells to the poor. Campbell's entire brand markets itself as America's comfort food. Yet behind closed doors, their own executives talk about it like it's chemical sludge. That's not an accident. That's contempt.
Definitely do not want to eat a piece of chicken that came from a 3D printer, but the voice that you heard in that audio is Campbell's Vice President and Chief Information Security Officer, Martin Bailey, and his honest opinion about the products that his company sells and the customers he sells them to. So we'll hear even more of his comments, but first, Cenk, your 2 cents?
Yeah, look guys, this is a great example of what corporations are up to when you're not looking, which is almost all the time. And part of the reason is, sorry, broken record, corporate media covers this kind of stuff up.
Jake drives the dagger deep. Corporations can poison people because politicians and media provide cover. Corporate news pretends everything is fine because they exist to protect advertisers, donors, and shareholders. Not you. This isn't commentary. This is systematic rot. It's the FDA and USDA worked for the public. Campbell's wouldn't have executives brag about feeding mystery meat to poor people. The media's silence is the grease that lets this machine keep running. It's a complete conspiracy, and it all has to do nothing but money.
We need a lot more independent media to show you amazing examples like this of what they actually think about their own product.
I disagree with you entirely, okay? I don't think media has any impact on this whatsoever. I think that there's been extensive reporting on the absolute slop the American people are fed by these deregulated corporations. There's been endless reporting about how our FDA has been corrupted by moneyed interests. There's been endless reporting on the USDA and some of the poor decisions they've made, and how our government does a poor job representing us. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we don't live in a healthy democratic system. And anyone who's gonna write to me and say, oh, we're actually a constitutional republic. You know what I mean, okay? We live in a democratic system in which we vote for people who are supposed to represent us. That's what I'm talking about. They don't care about us. And the reason why they don't care about us is because we have bribery baked into our political system. And so they're always gonna look out for their donors. They don't care about us.
But Anna, so like I hear you.
It's for you, it's always the media.
But Anna, why? Hold on.
Okay.
So I hear you, and you're making a really great point in this case. Okay, But what is the missing link in that media story?
What do you think is going to happen if the media does more reporting on this?
I know what's going to happen.
The New York Times literally just reported on Huckabee meeting with a traitor to the United States, and nothing happened. Nothing ever happened.
And why did nothing happen?
Because our government doesn't care about us, Cenk.
Exactly, but there's a second missing link, Anna, which is what did the rest of the media then pile onto that Huckabee story? No. Corporate media said, we're not going to talk about that story. Now, it could deeply embarrass Trump, and they love embarrassing Trump, but if it's about Israel, no, that's it, we're not going to do it. Now, related to this story.
Everyone's talking about this. Okay. Everyone's talking about this.
Okay, everybody's talking about this.
Yeah.
And when we go to regulate Campbell's soup, as you're going to see, it definitely needs regulation when you see the story. What is corporate media going to say? It's over-regulation. And we're going to say, hey, no, but these guys are paying off the politicians. They're going to say, oh, that sounds conspiratorial. The donors don't have that much power. It's just a little bit of influence, but it's not that big a deal. They cover up the most important part, that our politicians are corrupt because they work for these corporations. And the corporate media says, no, they don't. No, you guys are all imagining it, and they gaslight you. No, of course they work for them. Otherwise, we'd go, what the hell kind of junk are you feeding us, literally? So let's tell them the junk that they're feeding us.
So the audio was released as part of a lawsuit, an employment discrimination and retaliation lawsuit that was brought up by a former security analyst for Campbell Soup Company. The former employee's name is Robert Garza. Now, according to Newsweek, the lawsuit indicates, and interviews Garza gave to local media indicate that the claims stem from a recorded meeting between Garza and Campbell's vice president and chief information security officer, Martin Bally. Garza, who began working remotely for the company in September of 2024, said he met Bally at a restaurant in late 2024, believing they would be discussing his salary. Now, Garza says that he started recording the meeting because he had an instinct that something wasn't right with Martin. Now, since the case, by the way, is being brought up in Michigan, the recording is legal since it's a one-party consent state. You don't need consent from both parties to record. I just want to get that out of the way. Now, Garza's gut instinct was right because within a few minutes, Martin Bally went off. Garza alleges the executive delivered an hour-long tirade criticizing the company's products, disparaging employees and customers, and making racially offensive remarks about Indian colleagues. The recording also allegedly captured Bally admitting he came to work after consuming marijuana edibles, which I don't care about at all. I'm just going to be clear about that. Now, the recording, which lasted longer than an hour and 15 minutes, included what Garza said was a disgusting rant alleged to be made by Bally about his coworkers. Effing Indians don't know a effing thing. I'm quoting, by the way, what Bally said. And like they couldn't think for their effing selves, it said in part. Garza also said that he kept the audio to himself for a few months to process things. Then he went to his manager in January to report Bally's behavior, but he ended up getting terminated from his position 20 days after reporting the matter, an action that Garza believes was meant to silence him. Now, Garza also told reporters that the recording, or that he received no follow-up from Human Resources after submitting the complaint. The lawsuit accuses Campbell Soup Company of maintaining a racially hostile work environment and retaliating against Garza for reporting discriminatory conduct. It asserts claims of employment discrimination and race-based retaliation under Michigan law.
Garza records the executive insulting employees, mocking customers, and bragging about eating edibles at work. Instead of the company correcting its leadership, they fire the guy who exposed the truth. Classic corporate retaliation. Never forget, corporations don't fear laws. They buy the lawmakers. They don't fear regulators. They fund them. They don't fear the outrage. They own the channels capable of spreading it. The only thing they fear is independent exposure, which is exactly what happened here.
So, there's other examples of what was said. So he had no record, Garza had no record of prior disciplinary action. I should note that as well. So his firing was obviously retaliation based on what we know. There might be other information that we're not privy to at the moment. So Campbell's has since put Bally on temporary leave with a spokesperson saying that if the recording is legitimate, the comments are unacceptable. They do not reflect our values and the culture of our company. Mr. Bali is temporarily on leave while we conduct an investigation. We are proud of the food we make, the people who make it, and the high quality ingredients we use. The comments on the recording are not only inaccurate, they're patently absurd. So
Sure.
They say that their chicken is not printed with a 3D printer.
Yeah. He didn't mean it literally, and we all know that. His main point was the food is inedible. It is mystery meat, and we feed it to poor people because they don't have a choice, and I would never eat that stuff. So that's what he's saying. We heard it on the tape, right? And that is not ridiculous. That is true.
Yep.
And that is why they're panicking over this story. So now now we all know, and look, the part about his Indian coworkers is terrible. If you're Indian and this guy apparently hates you and doesn't respect you at all based on your race, you'd be deeply bothered by that, right? So that's something that needs to be addressed and is a significant issue. But the bigger issue for the whole country is these companies are putting absolute junk in the food, and our country and our government is doing nothing to protect us. And so Make America Healthy Again came about because people were worried about that. The processed foods, the high fructose corn syrup, et cetera, right? That's actually not a bad development. And then RFK Jr. becomes the head of Health and Human Services. Did he address any of that so far? Nope. Instead, rando things about autism and Tylenol and a bag of squirrels, okay?
Adding or loosening restrictions on PFAS, on in the food supply, all sorts of issues with pesticides being reintroduced to our food supply. I mean, what happened?
So does RFK Jr. want to actually address those issues?
No, obviously not.
Well, look, based on his history, I can see that he did. But now he gets into power and all of a sudden he doesn't do it. So even if you believe that in his heart, RFK Jr. really wants to fight those issues, fight for us on those issues, why isn't he doing it? Corporate power, we all know that, right? In fact, he suggested something about food processing and how it was problematic, and immediately the Trump administration told him to shut up and never bring that up again, and he's never brought it up again. And instead you have these squirrels running around. Why? Because of overwhelming corporate power. Why do they have that power? What is it? That's the last link that they don't break down for you. It's the bribery. They literally pay the politicians, not just Trump and Biden, but almost all of Congress, and they go, make sure.
JFK Jr. was supposed to be the anti-corporate crusader. Instead, silence. The second he touched corporate food interests, the political machine shut him down. That line alone is the smoking gun. It's bribery disguised as governance. The elites don't eat this garbage. You do. And every time you buy it, you are subsidizing your own poisoning. How fair is that when we pay these government departments to protect us? Not the rich, the elitists, the corporations, and everybody that's trying to poison us. But we are the ones that are getting poisoned.
That you allow us to poison the American people, and here's a check to do that. Mr. Corrupt dirtbag politician, okay? And remember, don't eat our food, okay? It's toxic, it's terrible. It's for the poors and the middle class Americans, right?
That's all of us, by the way.
Yeah, now the elites don't eat that, so you don't have to worry about it, and here's your check. And then media, in my opinion, comes around and goes, oh, no. Of course, that's just them having a conversation. It doesn't influence the politicians at all. They just happen to think that junk in the food is great for America. That's their honest opinion. They had a debate over it. No, they didn't. What did Adam Smith tell us? He said, we have to do regulations in order for capitalism to survive. If you don't do regulations, monopolies take over. And corporate rule takes over, and it destroys capitalism. And that's what's happening right now. And our politicians are participating and literally feeding us this pile of junk so that they can get richer.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I think I'm just sick of nothing changing and everything getting worse. And I don't want this, but honestly, with things going the way that they're going, the only end game is gonna be an actual violent uprising. And I don't want that. I don't want that. But the more Americans feel neglected by our political system and the very people they elect to represent them in their best interests, the more we're fed poison and slop by these corporations. There was another outbreak of botulism cases involving baby formula. Another breakout, another one. We're talking about baby formula. This doesn't happen, at least not with the same frequency, in other countries. We're supposed to be the richest country in the world. Look at the way we're living. Look at the way Americans are treated by corporations and their own government.
You know, in other countries, they have signs like saying no American meat, so you can rest assured. You can trust our restaurant. Now, why do they have that sign? Because they want to just insult America for no reason? No, they actually are worried about our meat because we don't properly vet our meat. Our Food and Drug Administration has been totally bought by corporate power. So we've been on the air forever. We're the longest running show in online history, right? So I remember covering the stories during mad cow disease when the meat industry would literally stand up cows that fell down from mad cow disease and push them through the assembly line to make an extra, what, $5, $50 from that particular cow, but it's gonna poison the American people, and by the way, then be so counterproductive because then it's gonna shut down a lot of things, right? But they think, no, greed and endless greed, and they have this enormous confidence, and they're not wrong about this. Oh, don't worry, we'll just pay the politicians to cover it up.
And they will, and they will, and they do.
And that's what's happened. And I'll give you one last example to give you how comprehensive corporate politicians and corporate media work together to do this to us. Archer Daniel Midland is an agriculture company. They sell nothing to the average American, yet they would pay $1 million a year to the Sunday talk shows to sponsor them. I always found that strange, right? And sometimes defense contractors do the same thing, even though they also sell nothing to the public. The reason they do that is to purchase the media, the hosts. So that way the hosts never talk about the corn subsidies. The corn subsidy is a disaster for this country. Why? Because it leads to an incentive to create high fructose corn syrup. What's Mexican Coke? It's just old school Coke. It's not Mexican. It's what we used to produce in Atlanta, right? But we don't produce it anymore. Instead of sugar, we use high fructose corn syrup, which is way worse for us. And one of the reasons why this country is way more obese than other countries. But because of the subsidies they got to do that. But yet none of the Sunday talk shows for all those decades ever talked about the corn subsidies. Why? Because they had been bribed by Archer Daniels Midland to the tune of $1 million a year to not talk about it. Same thing for Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and all the defense contractors. They bought the media and the politicians, and they had this country on lockdown. That's why I love these populist woods that we're in. Because now we're doing online shows that do not listen to that junk and that tell you the truth, and we're battering corporate media, and we have begun to batter corporate politicians, which is nearly 98% of them. Go in the primaries, vote against almost all the incumbents. They have betrayed you, and they work for corporate rule.
This isn't about soup. It's about the corporate class that openly despises the public, politicians who cash the checks, and a media ecosystem designed to keep you obedient while they line their pockets. They don't eat their own food. They don't try their own products because they know exactly what's in them. You're not a customer. You're a disposal site. If anyone still thinks these corporations see you as human beings, listen to their own words. The mask is off, the contempt is real, and the only defense left is exposure. Just protect yourself from this poison. Thank you for watching and listening to our video. Please like and subscribe to our channel. We will talk with you the next time we need to uncover the real truth.